Aloha and welcome to Is It For Real? I'm Gregory Dunn, your host. I'm also the president and CEO of Hawaii's Better Business Bureau. Today we have joining us is Detective Christine Thomas, and she's with the City and County of Honolulu Police Department in the Financial Crimes Division. And her work, she specializes in working with kupuna and who have been taken advantage of financially in terms of financial fraud. And we're going to be discussing some of the ways in which we can help people protect themselves.
Absolutely.
So, Detective, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Financial Crimes Unit and what you do and how you interact with seniors in particular?
With seniors, we'll get a report of somebody being taken advantage of. There's numerous different ways to being taken advantage of. And thankfully somebody calls us and does a police report and lets us know. And I found when I get some of those cases in, I find that it's better to go visit the kupuna to see how this all happened. Because sometimes they don't even know they're being taken advantage of. It's
right, someone's earned their trust. So.
Absolutely. And it could be different ways that they come down the street and they look at their house, oh, they might need roof repair. So they'll knock on the door and they'll talk story and gain their trust and say, you know, I'm a contractor, I can take care of your roof for you for so much amount of money. And then they'll start doing the repairs, and they do good repairs, or they don't do repairs that are really needed, if there's any needed at all. And then they'll say, oh, you know, you owe me $5,000 or whatever for the cost. And sometimes we find they go back 2 weeks later and say, oh, you forgot to pay me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And the kupuna will go, I thought I paid you. Well, maybe I didn't. But they trust the individual. The individual has gained their trust, and they've befriended them and talked story with them.
Because they did the work, they did the talk story.
Right.
Maybe there's a relative connection or a friend of a friend.
Right. And all I can say is look out for each other.
So it's important that seniors look out for each other. If you see someone that looks like they're being taken advantage of.
Absolutely. Even your neighbor. You know, I've got some elderly that live in my neighborhood, and sometimes I'll watch, and if I see them, I'll say, hey, who is that? I don't recognize them. It's not part of the family that I notice them around so much. And try and befriend them and talk story and find out what's going on and see if it's a problem, because sometimes it's even hard to see.
Oh, definitely. And one of the things I have told our own family members is that the most valuable gift that you can give to your kupuna is the gift of time.
Absolutely.
You need to spend time with them. You need to talk with them. Find out how they're doing. What are they doing? What are they doing and who are they doing it with? Because those are the kind of conversations where you can very early on uncover someone taking advantage.
Taking advantage, absolutely. I've even seen it come in the mail. You know, you'll get these big envelopes, you've won $1 million and call this number and blah, 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 blah. So they'll call a number thinking they're a winner, and it's a scam. And at the other end of the phone, somebody will talk nice to them and well, you got to pay $12,000 or whatever, taxes, you know, for us to give you the check and all this other stuff. You'll never pay taxes before you get your money.
Right.
Don't ever pay the taxes before you get your money.
Anytime someone says that you have to pay money to get money, stop.
Stop.
Hang up the phone.
Hang up the phone. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
We know that you can't talk about specifics of cases, but in your experience, what has been the largest loss in your memory that you believe that someone had experienced falling prey to one of those types of scams?
One of those types?
Yeah.
100,000.
100,000.
100,000 sometimes.
So that in those cases, that's where someone has gotten like a sweepstakes notification, or they've gotten a phone call and someone said, oh, congratulations, the prize bus is right around the corner and I just need you to wire me X amount of money.
Right, and they'll have it wired in cash. Or these gift cards, you know, I don't know, they go buy them and the gift card, then they'll give them the number over the phone, so the cash is gone. You know,
not traceable. You can't get the cash back.
Can't get the cash back, and it's real hard. Sometimes we found that the money's even been transferred out of country in some other countries, and
So then they've gotten that first lump, which was like $500, real easy. That's like, most people can cover that. Then you get another call that says, oh, but we forgot.
Yes.
Now you've got to pay for the car that we're going to bring you to along with the check, and that's going to be a licensing fee of another $1,500 or $2,000.
Absolutely.
So
They'll come back time and time again. Once they feel they've got that in with you, they'll say, oh, we forgot this, like you said, or oh, we forgot that. Oh, wait, we're going to put you in another drawing to give you more. All kind of things. It's so hard.
yeah.
It's so hard working with them.
Well, and if you think about it, what's difficult is these type of schemes we used to refer to as con men. They would come into town as carpetbaggers, and they would go around. They would cheat individuals door to door.
Absolutely. Yep.
And,
I remember those days.
and now instead of the itinerant scam artist that comes through, that if you watched an old episode of Hawaii Five-0, you would have seen them, swoop into town and they fly back out.
Absolutely.
Now they are invited right into your living room through your telephone.
Through your
peer-to-peer.
telephone, through your computer. And a lot of times, I know my own personal example, I was trying to teach my mom how to get online and how to do things online when I was taking care of her, and I'm like, and she didn't understand it. Aren't they in the next room?
Yeah.
Sometimes. And it's real hard when they start learning how to get online and they think, oh, everybody's nice online, and they wouldn't lie to me. It's on the internet.
Oh my goodness sakes!
And
That's most recently we've seen an increase in the sweetheart scam.
yes,
Sweethearts, Lonely Hearts Club. What do you see? How frame that for us? What does that look like?
let's see. I worked a case late last year with a gentleman that had been in contact with this supposed student in Florida. He was from here, and they had corresponded back and forth, and they even were texting each other on their phones. And she said, "Oh, I need to go home, and I need some help. Can you help me?" "Oh, I got a check from my insurance company, but I don't have a bank account because I'm from some other country. I'll send you the check. Can you deposit in your account? Or give me your account number, and I'll wire it to your account, and then you can wire me the cash." And he did. She sent the check to the bank. The bank put it in his account. He went in a day later, took out the $5,000, and wired cash to her. It's gone.
Well, because you trust the bank. If the bank is going to accept the check, then it's like that check must be valid, right?
And the bank thought it was valid because it was so good.
Right.
And then they didn't find out till, I think, 48 hours after he had already withdrawn, because he was a customer and they trusted him, that it was fraudulent and the money was gone.
And so what then happens is that money is literally gone. It's not like he can then go and say that check bounced, so bank, give me my money back.
The bank is not happy because they're at a loss,
Right.
and they're going to say, you're our customer, you owe us.
Right.
You put this check in here, you should have known. Well, he didn't know, he was scammed.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just one of those things.
It's very unfortunate because within the banking regulations, there are certain things that banks are required to do.
Absolutely.
With respect to electronic transactions and those type of things. It's really important for you to read and understand the terms of service on each account that you have. And it's complex and it's difficult, but the bottom line is you're responsible for your actions.
Yeah. When I spoke to the gentleman, the victim in this case, he really loved this woman via the internet, via the texting, and he just could not believe me when I told him what had happened to him, because the bank, of course, had done a case, and we talked for half an hour, 45 minutes, and he still didn't believe me. He was sitting there when we were doing an interview texting her, "What have you done to me? What happened?" Because he still believed her, even after we had told him what happened.
And the unfortunate thing is that when emotion is played into it, in the art of the con, you have them, they bring you into the confidence, they bring you into the emotional bubble of we're going to help each other, and you love me and I love you, and
Right.
so we're taking care of each other. That if they wind up at a point where they've taken you once and they've found that you're a willing victim, how likely are they then to either come back at you for another pass at the apple?
She tried.
She did.
She
She did
tried.
try, even after that.
Yes.
What did she do? Oh my gosh.
She tried, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'll go find out at the bank what happened. There's got to be something wrong. Can you send me another $1,000 so I can take care of this problem? I need to get a lawyer, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my.
She tried.
Wow.
She tried.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's one of the things that we see happen over and over and over again, is that when people aren't thinking rationally about protecting themselves.
Because the emotion they didn't love.
Exactly. The emotion is there.
Yeah.
We've seen particularly instances where local folks here have either through affiliated organizations or religious groups or dating sites online, where they have remote relationships in other countries, where,
Yes.
let's say, particularly in, whether it be in the Philippines or Vietnam or Southeast Asian countries, where you have romantic interests that are exchanged over the internet, and then once the money starts flowing out, it starts relatively small, where they're testing you to see what your limits are.
See how far they can go.
Yeah,
Yes.
how far can they go? And then the next thing you know, you're buying a house for that person and for their family, and
Yep.
and loaning money.
Yep.
How difficult is it in those cases when we're talking about money that's gone offshore? How difficult is it to pursue those type of criminal cases?
Extremely difficult. I mean, how do we have any jurisdiction in the Philippines or Thailand or wherever the money's going? No. And it's really hard. You know, we can start getting, you know, the FBI and all that stuff involved. But it's really, really difficult to get it back.
And we're talking cash. It's not like this is credit
Right.
that, you know, you're not
Right.
relying on. This
Sometimes
is
if we
cash.
find out soon enough, we can get a hold of the bank and stop it and freeze the account and then try and get it back. Because sometimes what the scammers will do, they'll go through our bank here to a bank on the mainland, and then the bank on the mainland has no idea what's going on. So they'll forward it to another foreign country. Sometimes we can catch it before it gets too far.
But people have to get past the shame factor. They've got to ask for help. They've got to report.
Sometimes, well, a lot of times I see that we get it from family friends or family members that happen to say, you know, Grandpa, what happened to the, you know, and sometimes they see it soon enough to where they'll give us a holler and we're able to help them.
So in cases like that, when you get the call and it's not like they have to go down to the police station and make that effort. You folks have folks that will come
They
out
can
and
call
take the-
911 and the officer will come out and talk to them and get the documentation and make the reports. And then it'll come up to us at the main station at the Financial Crimes Detail. And we'll go from there with the investigation. Sometimes it takes, unfortunately, a while. And when the report isn't done quickly, we can't stop the money or hopefully freeze it.
So it's important to call 911, report it, get a police report, report it to the bank, let the bank know.
Oh, absolutely. Let the bank, as a matter of fact, call the bank before you call us.
Okay.
Stop that money as soon as you
Okay.
can. Stop it, stop it, stop it. And then do the report, and then we'll get a hold of the bank and see where it's at and see what we can do during the investigation. But, you know, yeah, if you want your money and you can get a hold of the bank, please call them first.
So one of the steps that you talked about in the case that we were discussing was where the person took the check and he went and he put it into his checking account.
No, she mailed it to the
she
bank.
she mailed it to the bank.
She mailed it right directly to the bank.
Oh, right directly to his bank. They deposited, and then he went down, he withdrew the cash.
Right.
And then he sent it via a third-party wire service.
He sent a MoneyGram.
Okay, so once the cash leaves the banking system and it goes to a private system, it makes it much more difficult to track.
Search
much more
warrants.
difficult.
And oh my goodness,
So what the lesson in that is,
don't send cash.
don't send cash. Okay.
Don't send cash.
Okay.
Try and go through your bank and let your bank take care of it for you, if at all possible, because once they get the cash, it's really, really difficult to track. Because I guess nowadays you can make a MoneyGram, and as long as you have the number of the MoneyGram, you can go anywhere in the world and pick up that MoneyGram with that number.
Just all they need is the numbers.
All they need is the number,
so,
and to pick that up.
and
it's
it can
gone.
happen instantaneously.
Absolutely.
So.
They'll do it within the hour.
Within the second in some
Yeah,
cases.
if they're standing right there and they know, honey, is the money coming?
You know, oftentimes people ask me when I'm out talking in our community. They say, you know, who are these people? Are they folks that are they, you know, some kids around the corner in Kalihi that are after us, or are they like some smarty out in Hawaii Kai that's like trying to you know, extort us out of money? Generally speaking, when you see these type of larger cases, I mean, do they go back to a common source? Is there any?
I think the largest cases I see, unfortunately, at this time are caregivers.
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 So, in other words, people that are living in the home or being the one responsible.
Being the one responsible for caring for the elderly. That's just
No,
me,
but
what
that's-
I've been seeing.
That's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good that we can warn people that, you know, to bring that to light.
I'm working on a case right now. I probably can't discuss it very far, but it's over $500,000 that this person has gotten from this elderly woman because she trusted. She trusted. Oh, she's going to take care of me. Oh, I need to help her with this. Oh, her bills are, poor thing, you know, and kind of took her on, and it's pretty bad.
So it's one of those where it sounds like the caregiver, again,
Befriended.
built the trust,
Built the trust.
made the person feel sorry for them and want to help.
And say, can I borrow?
Oh, borrow. I'm
Can
going
I
to pay it
borrow?
back.
I'm going to pay you back.
Right.
And then after they borrow it, you hope they forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that the scammers were doing when they did something to your house. Come back 2 weeks later and say, oh, didn't you forget to pay me? See, so they're going on that fact that, oh, they're going to forget, or they're going to not remember. And a lot of times we see that, you know, that they don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate, and that's where my thing is, neighbors, look out for your kapuna. Family members, look out for your family. You know, go talk story with them. Who is this new friend you have? Because sometimes that interaction you're going to find out, because if they're alone, they want company.
And they're vulnerable at that point.
Absolutely.
Because they're looking for someone to take an interest in them and spend time with them. Because if they've moved here later in life and maybe not have any family here, then they're relying on their friends to help watch out for them as they age in place.
Yes.
If they're from here and have family members who are very busy and they're raising their kids and their grandkids and trying to live their life, it can be very difficult for them to devote the time to the kapuna.
Yes.
In that case, and that makes them vulnerable.
Very. You know, because what I found when I do some of these cases, I don't like to call them on the phone because it's so impersonal for me. And I know it's so impersonal for them. So I will go to the house and talk to the victims. And there's days that we'll sit there and talk story for 2.5 hours before we even get to the case that I'm there to investigate, because they're lonely and they just want to sit down and talk. And that's how a lot of our scammers are getting to our kapuna, is they find that the family's not paying attention or the neighbors aren't paying attention, you know, and they just feed on that.
Absolutely.
And that gets me nuts.
I'm right there with you. We all deal with it as we see our parents and our grandparents aging, and you don't have the same familial structure where you have people that are around them all the time and spending time with them.
When my mom came to stay with me, because I took care of her the last 8 years of her life, you know, I never understood. If I get home, and then I got to listen to the stories and everything. And I learned that she's lonely. Even though I go to work for only 8 or 9 hours a day, when I get home, it's like da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, now I get it.
I get it, right?
Now I get it.
Exactly.
I don't think before in my life I understood until I took care of my mom and understood how lonely she really, really was. And I did see people taking advantage of my mom.
It happens to all of us. I've watched people take advantage of my mother too, and it is the most difficult when it's family members and or caregivers to step in.
Because I trusted them.
Yep.
And yeah, it's interesting. It's a hard job.
Well, trust is one of those concepts. It's something that we think about, but it's not something that's necessarily taught in the schools. We don't have civics and ethics courses taught in schools as much anymore. It's much more focused on the speed of information, technology, those type of things. What would you encourage parents or even young people to think about? How can we help increase the awareness of the need of ethics and trust in our community?
Oh my.
I know that's a big one, isn't
That's
it?
a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I care about my neighbors.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just, I guess it's something that was instilled in me, when I was young. And it being in the job I'm in now, my job is to care for people and to take care of people. When they're hurting and they're in trouble, I need to be there because that's what I do. I don't know, I guess my mom brought me up right. Leave it to my dad. No, but take time. I mean, you would be amazed at the information that some of our elders have just sitting down and taking the time to talk to them. Some of the things I have learned from some of the folks I've sat down and talked to is just amazing. I mean,
it enriches your life as much as it does theirs.
It does. I mean, they can tell me things that, I've sat down with people that were here during, unfortunately, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And I listened to this and I'm like, how amazing. Tell me more. Sometimes I can't get enough of some of the information that they've lived through and that they've learned from and being able to pass it on. And if you'd sit with some of our kapuna and listen to them, some of it's amazing. It's just amazing.
And we have a lot of community centers in town and various groups that do work with senior citizens. And so it's something that I know that the storytelling aspect is so important in linking the community together and getting people all on the same
Oh yes, I stopped by the what is that, the elderly center in the Liha, and I did a little bit of work there, when we were trying to educate some of the folks on the frauds, and my goodness, there's so many people in there and so much knowledge that they could share with us. It's just, I don't know, it's just amazing to me.
And it's wonderful to see the passion that you have for your job, especially on the prevention and education front. You see so much of the shambles that people's lives are left in after fraud. On the prevention side, what are some of the things that you get out there and you just pound your hands on the desk and say, this is the most important 3 or 4 things that you can do to protect yourself?
It's so hard because our kapuna are so trusting. They really are so trusting. And unfortunately, we do have the people out there that are going to take advantage of that. And I just try and tell them, if it sounds too good, it is too good. If they say, oh, give me $25,000, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
Think about it. Is that really going to happen? Is somebody going to dedicate their life to you? I mean, I know you want to believe that. And I know that most of the kapuna want to believe that. But they're just taking you. That may be all you have.
A chunk at a time.
Chunk at a time.
And then as you're advancing in age, your opportunity to rebuild that money,
it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
You're not able to reamass that.
I've seen some that have lost almost everything and have nothing. And they're going to have to move in with a family member that's probably not going to be real happy about it, because all they're going to have is their Social Security check every month. And all that nest or that they've had. I've seen them even convince the kapuna to sell their home. And I've seen them take their home.
Yes. We had a situation that we reported that a family member had complained that a son had convinced the mother to sell her penthouse unit in Waikiki for a couple of $1 million. And she would be able to still live there with a life lease afterwards, but sell the unit so we can use the money to do something else to fund a project that he wanted to do. Took the money, gone, sold the apartment to someone else, no life lease.
She's
out. exactly. And nothing that could really be done when the money leaves the country and it goes offshore.
Right, right. It's so sad.
It is. It's like, and it really speaks to the fact that we know that our elderly are incredibly vulnerable. Kupuna are vulnerable because they are isolated in many cases, and they are trustworthy. And we want to make sure that we're building a great group of organizations and individuals in the community that can help prevent fraud.
Absolutely. I just, like I said, I love going and visiting, We'll sit there and talk story for a long time, and then we'll get into the meat of the case. And sometimes I've had a neighbor come over and say, "Excuse me, who are you?"
Don't be afraid, right?
And
Exactly.
don't be afraid to do that
Right.
if you're the neighbor. And like I said, I did have a neighbor come over one time and say, "Excuse me, what are you doing with Mrs. So-and-so?" And then I'd have to tell them who I am and blah, blah, blah. "Oh, okay." And they go on about their day.
Now, in a case like that, did the person ask to see your credentials or your badge? Okay. So that's very important, because there are a lot of times when people will approach a house or get engaged and they won't have the proper credentials,
Right.
or they'll misrepresent who they are.
The gentleman did ask me for my credentials, say, "Prove it." I said, "Okay." Don't call 911 on me.
It's like,
But,
oh, you get a gold star for the day.
But he did.
Yeah.
I thanked him so much that he takes care
Yeah.
of his elderly neighbors. It was just impressive to me. And that's what I'd love to see, is all of us taking care of each other, no matter what.
As we're winding down, I think that's like probably one of the best things, one of the best messages that we could convey. And we can talk about the sad stories of what's happened to people. But if we can even get a few people to be prevented from losing everything by these stories, that's the goal.
Anything to help. I mean, it's quick example. Somebody come around and knocked on the door. They saw the elderly. They scope out these places, and they sold this lady a vacuum cleaner for $5,000. Wow. It's a $200 vacuum cleaner from Walmart. And 2 weeks later, they come back. "Oh, Auntie, we got the accessories for this. The accessories are only $6,000. And when we spoke to the lady about this scam that was going on, "But he was so nice. I really liked him. He was so nice." And it's like, look out for your neighbors. And
yeah, look out for your neighbors, raise questions, talk to people, and most importantly, call 911 if you're in doubt.
if you're in doubt, call 911, please.
Well, Detective, I thank you so much for your time today. This has been incredibly enjoyable to sit and have a conversation about.
And I
really
just hope
appreciate
it does some help out there.
It definitely will.
I sure
And I want to thank you for tuning in. Be sure to tune in for our next episode. Aloha.